We've given away 7 race cars. It's time for a tow rig. This unit comes with these badass 24-inch wheels. Go to lsnasty.com and every dollar you spend gets you an entry to take this bad boy home. Alright guys, welcome back to the videos. We are here in the shop. Got a lot of updates for you. We're trying to get to the track for Thursday. We got private testing Thursday and Friday, which I'm very excited about. We got Hank up on the lift working on that. We got the vet all squared away. Ordered some parts for Hank. I don't think they're going to be here in time. We are checking sensors right now, going over everything, nut and bolting. This is something that I don't show on camera a lot, but you guys really need to do it when you're working on cars, when you're racing them. After you run them a little bit, you drive them on the street a little bit, fresh build, you got to go back, make sure everything's tight, because I had failure with this guy here with like the Z-Link bar, the Panhard bar, or whatever. It did come loose and rattle around. Not really a big deal, but if it was something more important like a lower control arm or something like that, that could be a big deal. So as you can see, this bar here is a little bit beat up. So some other updates we got going on. Slick Rick is just chilling. Matt's still down in Florida working. Oh, like I said, Matt's no longer here with us. We got an argument, actually. We went to an Arby's and we were eating. They only had one Big Montana left. We got in a big argument over that. I told Matt, you know, I'm eating the Big Montana. He's like, no, I want the Big Montana. We took our shirts off like we were going to fight in the lobby. They told us to get out. We went outside, never fought. Matt went his way, I went my way, and that's the end of it. So Matt's no longer with us here at Nasty Racing. So yeah, it's just the way of the road sometimes. Some other updates. I've actually had quite a bit of interest in the Colorado. So I made the video talking about how I'm going to sell it and didn't post it on Facebook, but I've had a number of people reach out to me and they're like, hey man, I'm actually interested in the Colorado, don't even bother posting it, I'm trying to buy it. And I'm like, hold on. So I'm trying to be respectful in the order at which the messages come in, kind of like if you snooze you lose type deal. And some people were snoozing, so they'll be losing. Some people weren't snoozing, and I got someone coming to look at the truck on Friday, kind of going over everything. It's a little sad, it's a little bittersweet. I put it on some 315s, and boy, oh boy, does it look meaty on these 315s. Thing looks like something serious. RVW truck? Quite possibly. So, like I said, I'm just trying to get rid of it, trying to really trim down on the project so we could focus on a few. I've seen a bunch of comments lately where people are like, man, everyone's really getting sick and tired of you guys just working in the shop. And you know what? I'd love to tell you I'm getting sick and tired of just working in the shop too. So I'm not trying to work in the shop no more. I'm trying to be out racing. So that's what our plan is. All right, so got someone coming to look at this sucker on Friday. I think I'm going to leave the motor in until Friday, just to give it like the whole appeal of what it looks like with the turbo kit on, because I'm selling the truck with the turbo kit and some other parts and goodies like all the front end accessory kit and the door hinge kit and everything to pretty much complete like the chassis. And then you got the turbo kit. Exhaust is still like up for grabs. Not sure who's going to do what or where or when or how with the exhaust. I was just going to go out and down and up with it, keep it pretty simple there. So there you have it. Colorado, we'll have an update for you, maybe a video for you guys on Saturday being like, hey, the Colorado's gone. Don't know. I don't know if I was surprised with the interest that I got in it, but a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people were like, hey man, don't sell it. But I'm trying to stress, I can't stress enough that I'm trying to get rid of the projects, focus on working on one, racing, you know, 2 or 3 or 4. That's kind of what we're going with. So Colorado, bittersweet, kind of is what it is. So in this video we're going to be talking about Hank. We already talked about the converter charge pressure issue and worried about the thrust. I got a converter charge pressure regulator, line pressure regulator, whatever you want to do. which we've talked about before, which is going to tee off of this right here, which is where we're actually going to read for our line pressure, and then dump back through the case into the pan right here. We checked the thrust underneath again. The thrust is good. Everything's good there. Everything seems to be working fine. We are going to replace the crank sensor, which I don't know if you guys can see it up there somewhere. We do believe we have a bad crank sensor just because there is zero play in the thrust. Now, we could be getting a false reading, and that would be if the sensor is scaled wrong. So we got a 200 psi sensor. This is 150 or 100 psi sensor. We're going to get a false reading, and all of this all along would be for nothing pretty much. So we're hoping that it's not that, but if it is, it's not going to be the end of the world. So what we're going to do, we'll go over here and show you guys a data log, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about with the converter charge pressure getting a little high, and then we'll check and see if it is scaled correctly. So this is the pass that we made. Red being the RPM, and then the green is the converter charge pressure. We got some other stuff over here like boost and fuel pressure and oil pressure and stuff like that, TPS. This is to prove that there's some funky stuff going on here when it cuts out. Because, isn't that weird? I was wide open, but it's just the TPS coming down. You can see it cut out right there again. So the first thing, if we look just at the RPM, take TPS off, take converter charge pressure off, you got these weird dips which are not really normal. It should be kind of like a smooth line like that, like this coming up is fine, and then it would roll over, and this is, you know, our run at the converter. If we go over here to RPM, we could see that it does have crank signal. Now if we go over here, boom, syncing. Something's not correct. It is not happy. It's not supposed to be doing syncing. I thought that it pushed the crank forward and it got a bad reading and didn't have any RPM pickup, but with the thrust still being intact and there's no play in the crank, we kind of ruled that out. And then it does it again right here. This time it doesn't lose it, but you're under wide open throttle and it has, you know, a couple hundred RPM just stutter, and then it goes back out, and then it just really loses it there. So as you guys can see, that's the big drop there, and then it does it a couple times, so it's just sinking, sinking, sinking. Really lost crank signal there. Watch it. Not ideal. So something was going on. If the crank is fine, charge pressure was a little high, we caught it early, everything should be good there. I'm going to chalk this up to a bad crank sensor. Put our converter charge pressure on there, and as you guys can see here, I don't know, I'm going to check and see if it's scaled right. This is the reading that we're going off of at the track. Sitting there at idle, you know, 20 pounds, everything's fine. Put it up on the chip. 100 pounds on the chip, a little bit high. A couple spikes here and there. The spikes really, I mean, 156, that's a lot. Then on the trans brake release, it is going to spike. It goes from 100, which is on the trans brake, which is already high, because you want to keep it at or below 100 the whole time, all the way up. Look at that, 112, 123, 134, 146. It's like, whoa, danger to manifold. 153, 161, 173. It's got that spike right there. Converter charge pressure is high when it loses crank signal, and then after that, you know, it just goes in and out of power, and the converter charge pressure really drops. So we're going to look here in the log, look how we have everything configured. Best case scenario, the crank sensor was bad. We have the wrong scaling for the converter charge pressure sensor. We flop the scaling around, everything would be good. So essentially, like, if we had it scaled to 100 and it's a 200, everything would be doubled. So when it says 180 psi converter charge pressure, that would really be, it's like 60 psi, which I don't know, maybe that seems kind of low. So we'll just look and see real quick. Alright guys, here we are. We're coming up with a solution to this right now. We looked at the data log again. Our sensor, right? So for those of you guys that don't know what's going on, we're over here in inputs and outputs, I'm sorry. And then we have our sensor, converter charge pressure, configure. This is what we have. HOLLEY 200 psi sensor. It's scaled the same as the low dollar 200 psi. Everything is good with it. So we don't know. There's a couple things. We made one pass at the track, and then it didn't perform well, obviously, because the crank sensor went out. It was just like the perfect storm. If you lose crank signal and have high converter charge pressure, your mind goes, holy shit, it's trying to push the crank out the front of the motor. Fresh off a converter change, which again makes you like, oh god, it's trying to push the crank out the back of the motor. But it did it for so short of a time. We don't have enough data to really, like, it's no back-to-back stuff. So I talked with Matt, and I'm like, hey, you know, it has absolutely like no excessive play in the thrust right now, which is great because it means everything's good, everything's happy. We'll check the oil. We're going to put a new crank sensor in there. We're going to fire it up, maybe put it on the chip and test it again. Really, we want to try to regulate it at 100 psi. So we're going to give it a shot tomorrow. We're doing a private track rental. We're going to be out there at Got Motorsports Park with the Silverback Z06 and this and a couple other cars. So we're going to go out there hunting data. We ain't had no track rentals in a while. We're going to go out there, make some licks, make some passes, see what we could do. And then I think, like, regardless, Friday or so, or Monday, probably the way the mail works, we'll probably have the restrictor to put the restrictor in regardless, because there's really no downside to restricting it to only 100 psi. So it's like insurance. What I'm going to do is, on a lot of my other stuff, I really, like I said, never really had one other time I've had a converter charge pressure issue, but it's something you guys need to look at. I'll drop a link in the description below for this transmission fluid regulator, converter charge pressure regulator. I don't know, you guys call it whatever you want to. And it's not a paid advertisement by any means. It's just something that is going to solve a problem, and it's a little bit of insurance to make sure that I don't have any issues. So let's fire this guy up here, make sure it's in park. A little cold start action. Fires right up. Pull some big ass wheelies. Is it not weird that it stumbled at the track and like stumbled when I pulled it in the trailer, and then now it's fine?
Yeah.
We'll have to check the wiring for the crank sensor. Just make sure nothing's loose.
Yeah, because it did not want to start. When I come to you on the big end, it did not want to start.
No, it wouldn't sync RPM. It just kept saying sinking. And
then all of a sudden...
And then it fired up. It went back. When I drove it back, it kind of like sputtered right before. It cut off on me when I pulled it in the trailer, but, I mean, it fired up right there and didn't stumble one bit.
Yeah, it fired up this morning when I moved it.
I mean, we'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll put an OEM crank sensor in it and try it.